Hello, hello. This is going to be a little meta review of the week commencing the 2nd of December 2024. Looking at all the events that happened over the course of the weekend, there were, I believe, 11, some big ones, some small ones, and some interesting updates on the meta. We're just looking at very small sample sizes of data, looking just what's gone on over the course of one weekend. But it can still bring some interesting things to bear, bring some interesting things to our attention. And I'll whip through this fairly quickly because I just recorded 5 minutes and realised my microphone was off, so we'll do better this time. We've got our mic on. Really interestingly, Little Winterguard list getting 3-0. I think that's definitely very relevant in the meta. We've got the things that you'd expect. Your Cabal, your Asgard's doing very, very well. A fluky 2 wins on OG Thor, but mostly we're looking at Loki and Mighty Thor having some good performances. So that's obviously a big staple of the meta of what we're seeing. Less play in Hellfire. I don't think there were very many big events this weekend. And Cabal, obviously big staple in the meta, but some of the most popular played factions were Asgard, Midnight Suns, massively on the rise. Blade is doing very well at the moment with Dracula splashes in humans, as well as just a way to deliver Thor 2, which we'll see in the usage in a moment. Defenders up at 56%, so these guys are all doing very, very well. I generally think that anything above 55 is excellent. A-Force surprisingly doing quite well, but again, just not played that much, so we'll see. Couple of Brotherhoods players. This is definitely one that we'll see as we go through it. It's pretty split, where the people who are winning have actually gone 3-0 in small events, and then people that haven't been winning at all. And then another notable one is just if we're looking at Avengers, the actually first Avenger, the Trigger Happy Steve, is doing very, very well, and we'll jump into that in a bit as well. So a couple of things, and then actually Webs, who are normally quite standout, have gotten quite a lot of play and not seen a lot of success this weekend. And we'll go into the meta and we'll talk about why we think that's happening. So we've got a couple of few small events to go through. This is nothing too crazy. This is a Mbaku and Namor list, I believe. Just revolving around those two main threats, and then very typical sort of defenders with Hulk not using portals, just normal punch them up defenders, but small event. Another small one, seeing Midnight Suns do very well, very classic Midnight Suns plus Dracula here. Things that you're going to see quite a lot of at the moment. They are running the old triple safe grab with Lockjaw Bill and Zemo, which is really cool to see. This was one of our larger tournaments, the largest tournament I believe that we saw this weekend. 22 players and just top 3 with Dracula. Well, top 2 with Dracula usage, and our third 3-0 player was using Ghost Rider as the play, which I think is very smart at the moment. We'll go into this a bit more, but with Midnight Suns really seeing a big rise at the moment, I think that bringing a lot of energy attacks to bear to counter sort of Blade and Dracula is going to be really, really important. Unrated, so friendly little fun tournament, but all the sort of stuff you'd expect to Thor 2 lists coming in here, and then quite a lot of Midnight Suns doing quite well. Down at the bottom of the table we've got more Dracula still, but things like Apocalypse that are a little bit harder to master maybe. A little Winterguard performance, which is great to see. Interestingly, I would have thought they would have done better into the NG attack meta with Crimson Dynamo, but it looks like they were getting these wide scenarios, 2 on Demons, but the wider scenarios on Hammer's Extremis, where they struggled to pull through. Moving on, pre-grand tournament from the Philippines, which is really cool to see players out there. Little Magneto list doing quite well. I'm not sure which leaders he actually ran through this, but yeah, did very well, topping out the board on a little Philippines tournament. This one was very interesting. This was one of our Trigger Happy Steves. So this guy actually ran Trigger Happy Steve, and I believe this guy ran Trigger Happy Steve all through the tournament. All the sort of things you'd expect from that roster. We'll dive into it. I think this is an I-Hulk and Namor. which is really cool. They're your main triggers you're trying to get, as well as OG, Bruce Banner. But yeah, I don't think he actually ran Sam Wilson at all. This was all First Avenger, which is where a lot of that prominence is coming from. Oh, pardon me. I'm going to edit that out, I think. Okay, the next one on our list is, looking at the First Avenger, looking at another Magneto performance, which is very cool to see. I'm a big fan of Magneto, but running Magneto, Juggernaut, Scarlet Witch is sort of the core, it looks like, with 2 Mystique games actually, so maybe we're leaning a little bit more towards the Toad, Rhino, Pyro mode with the steals and drops. But again, that's a team that I think with Pyro brings those energy attacks that can sort of beat the Dracula teams at the moment. And also a Spider Foe's very cool. Spider Foe's doing well at this one. Hopefully this is Green Goblin all the way through, running the GG leadership. Again, big energy attacker, which I think is very relevant at the moment. Winter Soldier Operative has shown up in a few of these top lists as well. So those range 5 attacks, probably also very, very effective. Another unrated tournament, another little Christmas affair. Asgard, I struggle not to get too bored with that. Looking at Asgard lists, we're looking at Loki, we're looking at Mighty Thor, we're looking at Hero Thor, and we got Hammers Gammers at, you can actually see the threat level. Must have not logged it. But yeah, then even the mirror match as well there. Another small little tournament, which was great to see, out from New Mexico. 8 players rated tournament, so people potentially trying a little bit harder here, but the top player unfortunately has not put their list in, which breaks my little heart doing these list reviews. But Midnight Suns, Spider Foes and Inhumans probably just looking to deliver a big threat, either Dracula or Thor 2. Thor 2 is great with the bump, he's a safe grab, and Dracula is obviously fantastic. The Spider Foes is a bit of an unknown one. That'd be a really interesting one to be able to see the list of. Some of the other notable ones, Discount Steve, also doing quite well. You can't beat the original. Well, you can beat the original we've seen with performance. Now, this is one that I really wanted to get into because this is one where we saw a Winter Guard list go 3-0. And I believe this one was just down the middles. This was, Montesi Scoundrels, which was a wider thing, but maybe grateful for that against Apocalypse. Without Prio, and then Mare, Fisk and Scrolls again against Apocalypse, doing quite well. And then lastly, bring those energy attacks. Now this looks like a very, very murdery game. Ended early on low points. 15 threat, fighting against Midnight Suns, but Midnight Suns with lacking an effective 6 threat, struggle to make a 15 list work very well. So yeah, really cool to see Winter Guard going 3-0 there. And also had a Magneto Bloodhood do very well, and it looks like on Extremist and Cosmic Invasion and Meteors, very likely to be Mystique all the way through there, but does have Magneto in the list, as well as, interestingly, a Shadow King. I wonder if he ever put Shadow King on the table. Does have Astral Plane, so it does have good old Shadow King's card. Again, another really interesting one to know if he ran that model. Number 1 with no roster, and a small event from Ocean City in Maryland, but unrated doubles, which is really interesting. A lot of people dropped on the day, so it looks like just 6 players jumped in, played some doubles. And then Teams, Tritex Teams event. This was another one of our big ones, 24 players, rated out from the Tritex games in my ends in England, mate. And if we take a look at these top lists, this is very likely to be the TTS League winning list. I mean, very close to. We're looking at King T and Mbaku with Thor 2, so very typical, sort of just bring a big kaiju and you'll probably be alright in the current meta, is what we're seeing a lot of. Spinovids actually did lose one here, but this is where your Namor's sitting, one of the best pieces in the game at the moment. But Green Goblin, no Doc Ock 2. just original, and then I imagine we're doing well laid plans things and lots of extract dropping. Yeah, the ones with high extract numbers are the ones where we'd one struggle for the cube. Spider is doing very well, and then I'm hoping this is going to be another trigger happy Steve list. So this is discount Steve with Supreme Strange for a place on turn 1, which I really like. Shang-Chi for a charge on turn 1. This is quite an aggressive Steve 1 team. Using discount Steve on every game and actually going 3-0 with it. So that's definitely something to consider. Supreme Strange, maybe worth a try. And obviously Hulk, also very good. Can't go too wrong. So that's sort of all of our tournaments. Some of the bigger ones showing foes do very well. Wakanda on the rise, and we'll see that reflected in these statistics as well. I just want to have a little look down here at top 10 played models, very much what you'd expect. Just nice to see Loki drop at the end there. But Thor is obviously one of the big bads at the moment. Zemo and Shang-Chi, very, really usable pieces with good action compression, doing a lot. Namor, one of the things that I thought was notable was Time Gem has gone up to 22%, so it seems more people are trying to feel out the Time Gem at the moment. And then really long-standing good pieces in Toad, Hulk, Bill, Okoye, and Bullseye, also all the way up there. As normal, everyone's playing Brace, but Recal Survival, these also defensive cards we're seeing a lot of value in, where we've got these offensive pieces. Defensive cards are doing very well. Warpath, that's just because Dracula is mad at the moment. Everyone loves him. Sacrifice Baron, but then Patch Up, Chi Mastery, and Heroes for Hire massively up there as well, which is really interesting. We're probably seeing a lot of Luke Cage, looks like the way, 10, and then again just with Midnight Suns bringing Heroes for Hire as well. So that's our little meta review. Now, what do I think about that? I think that Cabal and Asgard are obviously ones to watch, bringing these big kaijus in, Thor or Thanos, with Midnight Suns doing very, very well, bringing Dracula. Inhumans, I think, is a very notable one at the moment. And then anywhere where we can fit in Namor very well, Wakanda seems to be like one of his best homes, or Spider-Foes. I thought that extract drop list was really interesting, with some notable things on the rise being our Trigger Happy Steve doing very well, and a cheeky bit of Winter Guard. Actually, two different players doing very, very well with Winter Guard, which is always great to see. So, guys, I hope you found that a little bit useful, a little rundown of what happened over the last week of tournaments. And I will catch up with you all next week.